we are looking at matters Western Kenya. You see, there are things that are happening and things that are bound to happen. And when they do happen, we are here. We keep on wondering when or how it started happening. And on the conversation today, we just want to look at the promise Western Kenya. It's a region which is rich in everything. We are rich in everything, but it's grappling with governance issues, accountability. We have issues to do with trust issues, and then we also have the entire community doesn't participate in governance issues. They brought us something called public participation, but then it also the only public there is just the word public, because no public participation really takes place on decisions that are made in the region here. So joining me today are two very astute fellows. They are recognized and they come with their names complete, no minuses. Mr. David McCarley is my senior in this business. I remember him in the 90s, in their expression today, and the boldness the paper presented, and I just admired and loved him. I don't know whether he knows that. Then we have Kitui, Wasilwa, Mahakara, whatever. Mahakara, Wasilwa, that's the name. He's a legal mind that has grown old serving this country. So we're so privileged to have the two to talk about these critical issues. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes. Let's go straight to this. David, we begin with you. From your vantage point, what are the most significant governance issues currently facing Western Kenya? And right now, the conversation and narratives we want to build is restore. Yeah. So when we start thinking about restoration, what are the governance issues that you think we are grappling with?
First of all, thank you for having us here. Simiti, when you talk about restore, it implies that there was a status or a state that was glorious at one time, that we, look back to and say we're missing something or things have gone bad. In my history, looking at this region, I do not see actually any time we've been in glorious governance situation. We have been, sort of moving on, stumbling. And since we introduced, since devolution came, we have not found our bearing properly. There's, flashes of good governance here and there. But if you look at the whole trajectory, if you look at our western region, and looking at western, talking about western, I'm talking about the former western province counties, so Kakamega, Busia, Bungoma, Vihiga, and perhaps Trans-Nzoia is also added into western, but on the fringe. I have not seen, except during the tenure of Governor Oparanya in Kakamega, the rest of these counties have been struggling with good governance. We've not had outstanding leadership, so to speak. And that is not to demean or disparage the ones who have served, including people like Governor Lusaka, whom I've had the opportunity to work with together with my colleague here, Henry. But we have had a sort of what I would say a mixed bag of success and failures, and we've not gotten there. So when you talk about restoration, I would think we would be talking about the aspiration. Okay. Which we have not achieved as a region, and even as a country. I mean, we still have serious governance issues in terms of management of our resources, in terms of the employment practices, human resource deployment, in terms of engagement of the people in leadership or in their own governance, which devolution was supposed to enhance, that people are engaged on the grassroots to participate in decision making. I mean, I am in this county. I have not been consulted and have not seen any platforms or forums where, as a public, as a citizen, and I'm one citizen who is knowledgeable and wants to participate in governance issues. I've not seen any opportunity to do so. And I think it cuts across. So we should be looking at how can we then pick up the promise of devolution to step up so that the citizens and the wananchi can participate more fully.
But we agree that there's need for shift.
Yes.
If there is need for shift, especially in the area of governance, what specifically will you advance?
I think representation has not been implemented properly, because in the 2013 constitution, 2010 constitution rather, the anchorage of public participation in that constitution is very key, is central, and we have had what I call cosmetic participation of mwananchi in decision making and in governance issues, and that was the central pillar of the new governance structures in the new constitution. Wakili might differ with me, but I think that was really core to the new governance that we hoped the new constitution would introduce. That dream has not been achieved. And I think that is the biggest issue, because if we involve the people or the public in all these issues in governance, in whether it's legislation or just decisions on some of the things. Look, I'm in Bungoma here. One of the biggest problems we've had is the road going to, the dual carriageway, for example. I gather there was public participation. But if you look at that road and the things that require to be done to it to make it useful and user-friendly, you can find it's a lot. And
it's halfway done.
Yeah, it's like halfway done. People have been cut off. The town has been split into two. Businesses cannot operate across. It's costly to just move around. If I want to come here, I have to go around to many places to get here, even basic accesses. And when you raise these issues, they don't go anywhere. So I think that in terms of tapping public concerns to bring them into governance and make decisions, ultimately, we're very far from the ideal.
Wakili, building on what he's just said, there are some things, or how will you characterize the level of accountability within governments in the region? And then maybe you just go further and just identify gaps.
Speaking for myself, I think the sub-region, loosely called the Kavirondo at that time, stretching from Isibania in Korea to parts of Trans Nzoia and in between, there are lessons that from which we can answer that question. And I'll give you two lessons. One, the value system that was in the minds of the leaders of the 50s and 60s, if it was informed by selfish interests, the African District Council in Bungoma town would have been located in Kimilili, where the vision bearer came from. We're talking about Amtala. The building that has housed the county council of Bungoma, and then after that the county government, the county assembly of Bungoma, has the inscription African District Council. How it was financed at that time, when we didn't have as much money as the public institutions have, is a lesson worth emulating. How the leaders of Bungoma County Council at that time came together in the 70s to husband and bring forth pan paper, Zoe Sugar, Malakisi Ginnery. Of course, that Malakisi is private, but the public sector ones. East African heavy chemicals in Webuye. Those are lessons from which we can answer the question you have raised. What informed and what guided the hand and decision making of the leadership of that time is something that we need to plug into right now. David and I had a horrific experience, was it 3, 4, 5, 6 months, in what was called an external unit of a service delivery in the current devolved system of governance. What we saw was waste, inappropriate application of public resources, and yet the Constitution directs that the principal and priority agenda for service delivery first is health. Then water, then education, then sanitation. Those are named in the Constitution gives us a hierarchy of needs. That should inform the plans, that should inform the decision making, that should inform the application of limited resources. The 2 to 3 billion shillings that is available for development projects in Bungoma, if applied in accordance with those priorities, would see quite a bit of change. I disagree with David. The dual carriageway brought substantial relief to the movement of goods, people, and services between the 6.2 kilometers. Initially, I was amongst those who opposed the concept. I thought there were other priorities elsewhere. But I have come to embrace and appreciate the dual carriageway as a master stroke of the vision bearers of that project. And I think that despite its shortcomings and structural deficiencies, it is serving Bungoma and its environs quite well. Thank you.
But what we're saying mostly in the region is corruption, misappropriation of public funds. There must be systemic weaknesses that allow these issues to persist. Could you just name a few?
I don't agree that it is systemic. The system in the Constitution, in our value systems, in the statutes, regulations, is very well set out.
Okay.
We have no shortage of what ought to be done. What we have a shortage of is our moral fabric. That's what has gone down. And that's what we're probably the churches and civic societies and families and households need to plug into, because it is those junctions of decision making that give quality to the decisions in service delivery. You are given 2.5 billion shillings as a governor, and after 5 years you are unable to point to one specific complete project in one financial cycle. The decision-making process is contaminated by the value system of the duty bearers. And that, for me, points to the solution being the value system that we used to have those days. Amtala, why did he build such a magnificent, timeless building to house governance, and some other people are unable to build even a public toilet?
Are you referring to Pascal Nagwena?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, now, he talked about public participation, and you see, it is enshrined in our constitution.
Yes.
And the way it has been carried, we've talked about it a million times, we've raised issues. How public has been those public participations?
Public participation.
And what's the import? As in, how do we gain from that?
Public participation actually imports the imperative in Article 1 of the Constitution, where the place of the citizenry is carried through to planning, to strategy, to budgeting, and to implementation of projects, programs, and initiatives in the public sector. I think it comes back from the 16th, 17th century, where there is serious suspicion about giving power to public authorities, and to assuage the concerns of the citizens who consume governance, they included the citizenry into those processes dealing with public resources. Your question is a direct one. I give you a direct answer. There has been some form of public participation in major plans, programs, and initiatives. But the qualitative question, whether there has been meaningful public participation, brings you back to the concerns of business people, to users, whether the projects, the programs really are people friendly and user friendly. That question has been litigated in court. That question is the subject of many policy papers. The basic answer has been that for meaningful public participation, policy implementers need to get quality representation in public participation.
I think the main problem with public participation is to what extent does the participation impact the final outcome? Because you'll be called to a public participation meeting, you'll give your views, but are those views binding? In fact, that is where we need to get to. And we need legislation to affirm that in any public participation process, the views gathered, the majority views should actually hold sway, rather than just cosmetic attendance and people use you to go and execute what they have already pre-planned. And that is what's happening across the country, and I think there's a national problem, not just a county problem.
But there's a failure by the citizenry,
because
if they are not vigilant, eternally vigilant, constantly looking at whether their participation in the plans and budgets. It goes. I'll give you an example of Kiambu Finance Bill. Citizens noticed there's a gap between what the finance bill in Kiambu was a few years back, and they said this finance bill must be struck down because our input has been ignored. They went to court and it was struck down.
And stopped it, which makes it expensive. I mean, this vigilance comes at a cost. As you can see, Wakili is speaking very legally, because ultimately when you go to court, we have to extract their services. We want it short and cheap for the public to participate in their governance. If we are going to have to go to court all the time to enforce what we want done, because the authorities want to carry on regardless of what we think, then the import of public participation in the Constitution is completely lost.
David, there's good news. You don't have to pay court fees for public interest litigation. You don't have to. But you go to court and ask a judge, this is in the public interest, I seek a waiver. There is a provision for waiver.
It may not even be in the manner of court fees. It may be in the manner of lawyers' fees, legal representation.
Maybe time taken.
It's tedious. So first, let the country adopt and accept that public participation is with us, and is central to our operations and our lives, so that we don't have to haggle about it. So that when we are called, we know that the views we are putting forward will mean something, will count for something. But legislation in this country, or major processes, look, recently we had the CDF legislation in Parliament, which came down, and it was hashed within 2 weeks, whether we need CDF as is, put in the Constitution as an amendment or not. And money was released for that purpose. But do you know what happened in those caucuses? Elected leaders brought caucuses of people who would support the view that the CDF must go on. Even though, if you look at it critically, it's inconsistent with the dictate of the Constitution and separation of powers, of oversight, legislation, and implementation. So we have, again, consciously, through this public participation, phony public participation, legislated that this is how it ought to be. Yet, if you were to read the law, there's a clash in the two positions.
Which raises two questions. Number one, politicians or leaders, whatever elective office, they reward loyalists. Okay?
Yes.
Now, county administrations have been rewarding those who have supported them to be where they are. MPs the same. So when they are coming up with a conversation around any issue for public participation, they may want to go along that direction. Even outsourcing support or buying services to support public participation, it will still be outsourced from their loyalists.
Exactly, it is.
That makes it very difficult for delivery of substance. Don't you agree?
It isn't. What we get out of those forums is actually exactly what you are saying. It is not an accurate representation of the popular view about anything.
Yeah.
It is as has been orchestrated by the conveners and the influence, those who are influential. Obviously, MCAs want the World Development Fund because it helps them to perform or to gain visibility or to be relevant in their work. The same with the MPs who want national NG, whatever it's called, GAF, CDF, retained. But it's because of the, how would I call it, the way we have driven our politics to be sort of, MPs are not doing the work that that is prescribed for them in the Constitution. Yeah. The job description of MPs has been flipped to the populist view that MPs have to fund you, they have to do this and do all manner of things away from the three things which are supposed to do, which is legislation, representation, and oversight. Yeah. Now, they've come into implementation, which is supposed to be a function of the executive. And that's why this whole notion that, this fund should be taken back to the executive and MPs ought to have nothing with the implementation. Even being patrons, they'll always find a way to sneak in. The same thing has gone to MCAs. They'll find a way to sneak in to be the patrons or to influence how these funds are used. Yeah. And that separation of powers, we have lost the battle because we always go in when we have vested interests driving it. Yeah.
Now, Wakili, I'm sure what I'm going to say will need to be verified. But it's true that it's there. All we need is just verification. Every member of parliament is given about 65 million shillings for roads. Okay? So that money is usually never talked about. We never even hear that money is given.
Those Kera or which under Kera, right?
Every constituency is given that amount of money. We never hear of it. Whatever we hear is NCGF. NGCDF, okay? Now, it means that us as the populations need to be empowered or need some kind of leadership to attend these public participation meetings, because it's during such a forums that we can be able to ask the right questions. For example, how much money has come to this county? How much money has come to this constituency? And how much are we being shown that the money is here? So, for example, if an MP is given 100 million under NGCDF, okay? What about additional amount of money that is given and we don't know about? So those are the things that I'm trying to imagine with your guidance and advice, whether there is need to empower citizens, give them this information beforehand, and have them sit in these forums, and who should be able to do that?
The direct answer is citizens must be vigilant all the time.
Okay.
And it is that vigilance and civic consciousness and civic appetite for what you are referring to as the inflow of public resources into the county, into the constituencies. I'll give you the specifics in a general way. Most of the 9 constituencies in Bungoma County receive between 170 to 198 million shillings, slightly short of 200 million shillings. Yeah. For national government projects and programs. They use a little bit of it for operations. There are members of parliament, like my own member of parliament, who are ingenious, who are have that X factor initiative, who navigate around the treasury and get what they call special program funds. Okay. For example, Bumula in the last 5 years has seen 3 tarmac roads funded under the framework program, where you bring in a contractor with his own financier, with his own machinery, he does and completes them. Samoya Mateka, Moanda Mateka, and so on and so forth. And there is a loop around that road. That's not NGCDF. That is not a constituency funding. and it has come because of the dexterity in governance between the county government, people in treasury, and the member of parliament for Bumula, who is not necessarily pro Kenya Kwanza, but seems to have reaped quite a bit of benefits in his favor in terms of roads. True, 65 million shillings comes to most constituencies invisibly, and it's invisible to the consumers of governance, the citizen. They don't know that it has come, but it is published. It is published in government papers. It is published in the Kenya Gazette. How many of us read the Kenya Gazette?
Where is it?
Where is it?
See,
but
that
it is true.
That
You're
is
right.
Information hidden in documents.
Yes.
It's published, but it's hidden.
And my answer is the average literacy level now is Form 2, 3, 4 of most households. They ought to take an interest. It comes from inside them. It cannot come from public authorities. Civic consciousness, the civic appetite to know.
Yeah.
I want to disagree with Wakili. You know,
it comes from inside the citizen. It doesn't come from some river or from some governor or from some MP.
Wakili knows very well that the Constitution directs the government to supply information to the public that it needs. That's a constitutional mandate. Why would the citizen be struggling, groping around in the dark to find information that they should know in the first place?
David, for a very simple reason.
What we have is a failure of government communication.
You know what David is saying is that everybody is entitled to sunlight. But if I'm seated here with Simiti, I'll not benefit from sunlight unless I get out there, out of the shed, out of the comfort,
he could be,
and I will enjoy the sunlight.
But you see, both of you are right.
What is granted cannot be again
The
subject
citizen
to
has to move out to the sunlight and get to know how much sun there is.
Both of you are right in this sense that while the government information is not being given, we're also not getting out to look for it.
Yeah,
so we should actually do something to kind of motivate the government to pay attention to what we're looking for.
I think the onus is on both sides, yes, but I think more on the government, because the government is required by law to provide information to citizens to enable them participate, including that public participation. You're not going to participate where you have no information. So first we start with government providing the information. If these are funds which are available to every constituency, 65 million for roads, who knows about it? MPs know because they're the ones canvassing to get the money.
They're the ones receiving the money.
Where is it published that Kandui constituency or Bumula constituency or Kimilili has got 65 million this year for roads? So that there's public participation to spend that money. This information is out there, but it's really
Let's define the
left
problem.
to the challenge.
The problem is that most public officials have a stake in anarchy, disorder, and ignorance amongst the citizenry. How do you cure that?
Yes.
You cure it by inoculating the citizenry and injecting them with knowledge. Who should do that?
Yes.
The county assembly does it a little bit, probably a little better than the executive, because they get out into the grassroots and inform people, this is what we have received, this is what we wish to spend in your favor, and this is how, these are the projects that we propose. What are your views? The county assembly does it so well. Kudos to them. Kudos to Honorable Situma, the speaker who manages that process, and the members of the assembly. Can you say the same thing about the members of parliament? Yes, they do. They come down with public participation programs, especially when there's a crisis. Only when there's a crisis. When they wanted to anchor the NGCDF into the constitution, they ran around
all over the place. Yes.
The solution, we've described the problem. The solution is to have households, caucuses of the community, to get to know. They must know. There are no two ways. You need to know. Is civil society doing its part? Civil society, media, has been sucked into the vortex of anarchy and confusion and disorder, such that they will be compliant to those who are in power. I appeal to civil society. to play their part in provoking civic consciousness of what public resources come into the county,
Civil society again, there he goes, blaming people who have no responsibility in law or any, giving them the responsibility to carry out civic education. Actually, the Constitution gives the duty of civic education to counties. What civic education is going on in the counties? That's where civic education is supposed to happen as part of the devolution. We don't see it. In fact, there is more concealment going on than awareness generation on very important public matters and information.
Or maybe
so
it means that
I think we must be clear that government must perform its role as mandated by the Constitution and stop, allocating blame here and blaming the citizens or other organizations which intervene like civil society in matters which are supposed to be funded and performed by government. Let's put the ball where it belongs.
You see, the reason why the civil society is always touted as the leader in this space is because they tend to be the only oversight or opposition that we know. The rest
are compliant, manipulated, malleable.
Yeah. The media is sometimes referred to as recipients of brown envelopes, compromising the ability to carry out civic responsibility of oversight or informing the public. The statutory and constitutional oversights, the county assemblies, are now performing executive functions of carrying out contracts and tenders in their wards. So they are now on the side of the executive, and you will never hear of an impeachment of any public official when that happens.
On the side of the media, I'm an employee of West Media, and what we've tried to do is that in a small way, make sure that you don't receive that brown envelope. And whenever we are trying to do, I'm not defending, you're not doing me on the defensive, but I want to use it against you in this way. We, West Media, if you ever watch our TVs or radio stations, we don't have a single advert from the government. So there is nothing that stops us from doing what we are doing. We actually raise these issues to them. We highlight these issues, we do exposes, okay? Now, if we've done an expose, we have brought it to your knowledge, then you are waiting for the government to do something.
When was the last program aired on West TV that highlights the concerns of the users of public
Every day, this morning.
For example,
this morning, my colleague who just left with the guest did that.
You've made a very important point about inflows of special funds for roads in each constituency.
Yes.
That requires a 1-hour program anchored by Simiti. Have you done it? You have not. And I am not saying you've not done it because there was a contamination by a brown envelope. No. But I think in your planning of priority programs, you must take the role of those institutions that have failed, like the county assembly, like the executive, like the citizen herself,
yes,
in oversighting stewardship of public resources. Because if the truth of the matter is, if 2.5 billion shillings every year was applied to water, to roads, to health, there would be an absolute change. Now we have this discussion about level 6 program. I have been
hospital.
Yeah, level 6 what? Hospital, yes. I have looked, and you need to look in the 3 volumes of the expenditure, budget expenditure estimates for 2025-2026. I have not found it there. Perhaps a viewer may have found it. I haven't. The media needs to look for it.
The issue is this.
It may be a national government.
I raised an issue saying that we don't have this information. We don't have advertisement. We don't have privileged access to information whereby we can be able to highlight. So it's costly on us to go down there digging this information. And then agreeing with him that you are going to find me someone as someone
no, Simiti,
instead of
Simiti, that is a lazy attitude by the media. Let me just be very direct.
You know, I want to disabuse Wakili.
Volume 1, the budget expenditure estimates, Volume 1, Volume 2, Volume 3, 2,576 pages, is on the public information dashboards.
That's okay.
It's on your computer.
That's okay. That's okay.
And I want you, Simiti, let me challenge you.
No. I want you to respond before David comes in. Is this? Why would you want to say that I am to blame when the person who is supposed and mandated to deliver this content and information is doing nothing? When should I be the one to blame?
Do you accept that the media has a non-statutory, non-constitutional obligation to oversight the stewardship of public resources?
That is true. That is true.
And we do that.
That is true, and the media does that. The media does that.
I want to propose to you, sir, as we are coming towards the close of this program, that take one of your programs these days and focus on the contents of the 3 volumes. They are not much. Is there a footprint of allocations for the priority agenda in Western Kenya? And your scope of this interview was renewing something and restoring something about the Western region.
Yes.
The first thing you must answer is, do we have allocations for hospitals, level 3, 4, 5? Do we have allocations for upgrades of tarmac? I can tell you, because we are short of time, that the only visible allocation I have noted, and I have read that those 3 volumes, is 100 million shillings for 3 kilometers between Mufupi and Mukuyuni. Because Chikati is a member of the Budget Appropriation Committee that allocates. Alihuiba kilo niyo mwatang. KMwati the 100 million.
Yes.
And something about his KMTC in Tongaren. Is there a similar allocation? I have heard that there is 400 million shillings to complete the Manamuyemba to Sikata loop. 400 million. That 400 million shillings should be distributed to Brigadier and added to the efforts by the county government.
Good, let David come in. Now, what we are trying to look at here is whom to blame for the failures we have. Now, of course, the media and the civil society, I raised those specific areas because I thought that maybe what they are doing should be lauded. Whoever is mandated to deliver this information, the government, is doing the job. Now, Wakili seems to have a specific information about us not doing it. Okay, you have practiced media. You are media personality.
Simiti is pleading with you to defend.
No, I don't want him to defend.
Let me just shed some light.
I want him
let me also
using his word to shed some light on it. And then also go further and just let the viewer understand when we are talking about media not delivering, what exactly are we saying? When we say civil society not delivering, what are we exactly saying? And what are we supposed to be saying for the government that is not delivering?
You see, the media does not have any legal or constitutional responsibility to do what the government has been assigned to do. The media has a responsibility to be a watchdog of the performance of these institutions which are charged with performing those duties, and they are funded by from taxpayer funds to perform those roles. If they fail, the media has, of course, the role to, in its vigilance, in its oversight role, to raise those failures, to bring out those failures. How much it will do depends on its capacity as an institution, because the media are private investments. They are not philanthropic organizations. They are only performing a certain role in society, but they are not paid to perform that role. The people who invest are doing so as a business, seeing an opportunity to perform a role for society. But it cannot be their obligation when government fails that the media did not. People don't know because the media did not. No, that's why it's clear in the Constitution the government has a role to do, which is to provide information to the citizenry to enable them participate in their own governance and to make decisions on their lives. That role cannot be switched. But the media, as we have said, as the fourth estate, has that oversight role of making sure that these institutions perform. If they fail, we say so. Again, the media is not they don't have all the capital, the resources, the wherewithal to do what is being asked of them. Because if government alone is not even advertising with the same media house like West TV, it is struggling around with the little resources to perform. If it fails to do what Mahakara is saying, you cannot blame it, because it's about capacity to do it. And how much can the media do? Depends on its resources. So I don't think the blame should go to the media. Yes, the media has its challenges. It's weak now. Just the economy has hit them. Advertising has gone down. So resources to actually perform its traditional roles has also gone down. But, we can prospect that things will improve, or they'll have to be creative on how to survive in order to continue playing their role. That said. However, I think the biggest problem, going back to the gist of our discussion today, Simiti, you mentioned systemic failure. Mahakara is talking about allocations of resources. Are these resources allocated being used properly as intended? Why is it that, for example, we were talking yesterday about our county referral hospital. It doesn't have basic machinery to carry out, small x-rays. People are being referred to go to private hospitals. Yet we're talking about budgets allocated to, health budgets, allocated to the county to perform these functions. Does it mean the resources are less than our needs? Does it mean, or are the resources not being properly managed and deployed to serve the people in the core or key critical areas where we need them? So I think it harkens back to what you said, systemic failures or failure of systems to perform the tasks they have been set up to do. It is rampant across the region and nationally, by the way.
Yeah. Allow me a bit of rumor mongering.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I qualify it because it is rumor. Okay. But it is informed rumor. It is stated yes. by some people who analyze county revenue that the Webuye Hospital, Bungoma County Referral Hospital, has revenue capacity that can run this county without exchequer support.
Okay.
So far,
revenue from a hospital.
Yes, the revenue from.
Yet we are talking
Bungoma
about universal
hospital.
Health.
The revenue
free
from Bungoma County Referral Hospital. Only a fraction is reported in the revenue system of the county. The rest.
Where do the rest go?
Because so far it is simply a rumor, and I think in public opinion you're not supposed to. I will not.
It disappears into thin air.
But it is true that what revenue is reported into the county revenue fund for Bungoma County Hospital is only a fraction. At one time, David and I suggested a very outrageous proposition. We asked Governor Lusaka to transfer his office to the Bungoma County Referral Hospital around 2016, when there was a major crisis there. We told him, just go and make your observations, and after 2 weeks, go back to your office of the governor. I think he did take up this challenge. He went there 1 or 2 twice. Yeah. But if somebody went and sat at the revenue centers of Bungoma County Referral Hospital, the number of cesareans in a day, the number of laboratories, and for the record, David and the media, Bungoma County Referral Hospital, across the spectrum of public and private hospitals, has the most effective and best laboratory. This right eye that is now saying was operated at Bungoma County Referral Hospital by some gentleman there called Chemo.
Yes.
Chemaswet.
Yes.
Who operated this in the eye center at Bungoma County Referral Hospital. So let's give credit to the public institution's capacity to offer medical
some people are lucky, others are not lucky. He may go there, he may get the service. How many people even stepped out there are waiting for this service and they never get them?
He didn't know.
I'm a bit concerned that revenue should be generated from hospitals. When we are going towards free healthcare.
Let me help you in that question.
Yeah.
I've worked in the private healthcare system myself. And the hospital I worked with was making about 12, 15 million a month. And we looked at some hospitals here in Bungoma that were making between 70 and 90 million a month. If that is the case, and those are private hospitals,
yes,
with like 20% traffic compared to county referral hospitals, then yes, county referral hospitals must be making a lot of money.
But
that is not reported.
It's not reported.
But you see, the county facilities are not supposed to be making money. They should be, our services should be cheap and affordable to the public.
Some
private
services
hospitals have the right to charge those who can make it there. And then the tragedy is, you're going to these referral hospitals, they don't have those facilities or the infrastructure to carry out what you need. They're sending you to the private hospitals. That's why the private hospitals are making all the money. Because of the failure of the public health services,
yes,
which we must address.
No, David,
some services within these public hospitals
David,
are supposed to
the private hospitals largely have specialists who have private facilities.
Okay.
That compromises the quality of service delivery in the public sector.
Okay.
The world over, the National Health Service in England, in the UK, the public services in the best systems in Middle Europe and Asia, the best quality is found in public sector. We are on the road to that, where the public sector will offer better quality than the private sector. There will be very little business for the private sector.
That's the idea.
So let's give hope to people that the public sector has components of it working, particularly where the mother and child is concerned, despite its challenges, pediatrics, and hata sisi wazee. If you look at the beds for dialysis that Governor Lusaka brought in, Governor Wangamati brought in, it's a big expansion of access to healthcare. You will find 15 patients undergoing dialysis in the public hospital at Bungoma County Referral Hospital. You will find 0 analysis going on in Life Care and West. It's called what?
Bungoma West.
Bungoma West.
And
why?
Hopkins and
because the equipment, the specialists in the public facilities are superior to those of the. This. I think it's a fad. It's just.
Well, that's what it.
It's just convenient thinking that if you go to a private hospital, you're going to get better care. No. I want to bring faith back
to the public institutions.
To the public institutions.
Okay.
I'll let it pass. I have one small problem. How to answer?
Yeah.
But before we walk out of here, I would like us to do it like this. There is, when you listen to the people out there walking and talking and seated somewhere having fun and talking and listening to music or something, there is a specific hunger among these people about the need for some form of intervention that will come and help reset. And this guy has given us where we need to reset to. For this region, where Pascal Nabwana left this county, or this place, this region. Now, if we have to reset to the 50s, that hunger is there. The conversations are going there, sometimes in low tones, but it's there. There is need. Even those people in leadership, they also talk about the need to reset, the need to rethink a new approach. David, in 30 seconds, what will be your advice to someone who is listening to you in the government, in the civil society, in the media, that common man watching you this moment, thinking in terms of if we have to reset back to the 50s to begin afresh, what steps should we take? Who should go, who should come?
That's a tough one. That's
and
a tough
30
one.
seconds to go.
30 seconds cannot answer that question. Can I surrender?
Okay, you do the match, you can do.
Okay, the point is, the glorious past with the 50s and 60s were in a whole different global setting. We used to go and get clothes from the East African community. I grew up going to get clothes brought for us. They were mtumba or they were new, but we went to pick clothes and go home. That can't be done anymore. Days have moved on. So we must also move on with the times. The glorious past that he's talking about, was in a different setting. Today, we just need government putting money where it should be. We need the management of those resources done properly. We need to root out corruption, which is really the problem, biggest cancer we have, which is why we cannot move. He's talking about Bumula, getting extra money for roads here and tarmac roads, and it's canvassing. Why should an MP go to canvass at the treasury to get projects? So those who can canvass more will get more projects, more money. Those who cannot, who are weak, cannot. We must have an equal slate. Constituents allocate money based on the population dynamics. Money is sent accordingly, not because you are lobbying people going to insert things in the budget so they come back and get the money and implement those projects. We must root out all these things and have a transparent, accountable system of government.
Okay, let me give you 1 minute. Now I want you to look at it from the trust issues. Do we really trust our institutions? Do we really trust our government? Do we really have to look for help to trust this government? And if so, why have we reached here? And if we have to reset, what should be the priority in the resetting business?
The priority is the individual, household, community values. That has to be regenerated. It is completely fractured. That explains the bad quality of decision making by those who have control of public resources. So the beginning point, the alphabet of reset, is to reset our own personal values. What we do when no one is watching is the most important reset that must be undertaken. The churches, civil society, ourselves, for caucuses, need to just come together and reset the value systems so that when we hand the Simiti the stewardship of Bungoma County, he will do the right thing to get us hospitals, water, roads, and sanitation. Let's not trust the government. Trust but verify. The verify part is eternal vigilance by the citizen, by the consumers of governance. There must never be trust of public officials. You trust, but go and verify. Like you said, did 64 million shillings come to Kandui? Did it come to Bumula? What have they done with it? Trust what they tell you, but go and verify.
And the word here goes back, Simiti, to public participation and transparency. If we can use those two things, we'll clean up this country. Because if you are going to have public participation from the planning, exploration, implementation, throughout the whole chain, I think the 5 stages, public involved in it, will first kill corruption. Transparency is that everything will have to be brought to the table, and everybody knows this project is being done here, the person doing it is this one, and for this amount of money. It is finished, we all can see the road is there, and it costs this amount of money, and these things are published. If we go that route, we'll reset our country.
Oh, the 64 million times 5, because it comes every year, it's about 300. Okay, there are about million that no one knows about. I am not saying what you're thinking I'm saying. Anyway, thank you, Wakili, and my colleague, Senior Makali, for your time. I think by finding time to talk to us is actually helping us understand a bit of these things. And I want to request that this should not be the first and last. We barely scratched the conversation. We still need to reimagine Western Kenya and see how best this region can be a region that people can be able to live in. We haven't talked about capitalism in the region. How is our money moving around? Who is in charge of these movements and stuff like that? We haven't talked about the education sector, which is actually a big issue. I wanted us to talk about the scholarships and education funds that are coming around and in whose hands are they supposed to be and stuff like that. We haven't touched that. I just want to encourage you that next time I invite you, please come so that we can take this conversation further. And I want to let this back to you out there who is watching this, that let it not end here. Ask these questions whenever you have an opportunity. Talk to people and let them actually give you the right information that we need for us to make decisions. Thank you so much. On behalf of the director of the show, Calvin Kibet, my name is CKS. See you next week on Tuesday.
Oh my goodness, I have a gallery there, works of art. I've done so